It's Aaron, and today, ladies, gentlemen, and N-berries, N-berries? I'm not exactly sure, but today we're going to talk a little bit about if leftists can be rich people, specifically leftists like Bernie Sanders, or Contrapoints, or Oliver from Philosophy Tube, or H-Bomber Guy. Can these people be leftists and also be rich at the same time? Well, I guess we're going to talk about that today, so let's get into it. Hello, Discourse, my old friend. So obviously this conversation has made its way back into the Discourse yet again. So we're going to do what we do with the Discourse, and we're going to pick it apart. We're going to analyze it. We're going to analyze its molecular structure and its form, and then we're going to make hot takes about it, because that's what, social media is all about. So let's get doing that. So first of all, the main criticism that is being levied at most of these leftists is that they aren't able to be good representation for the left if they're making a lot of money. The idea behind this basically coming from the thought that once people start accumulating more money and becoming more successful and having more power and more clout, as it were, they start to become disconnected from the regular people, just from the regular guy on the street. They stop being able to really see eye to eye with those individuals because they don't have to deal with that struggle every single day of their lives like they once did. Now they're finally living in the lap of luxury, and they're able to just reap all of the benefits that come along with having a lot of money. And that's where my first criticism comes in, because that doesn't necessarily make sense. Yes, there is a lot of people who immediately, as soon as they're given even a little bit of power or a little bit of money, immediately just completely disown where they're from, who they are, their family, their friends, anybody, because they have now found new rich friends, and they are spending their time in fancy, wealthy circles and bumming around with and elbow to elbow with important people. Some people do end up doing that sort of thing, but that's not everybody. Obviously, a lot of these things have to do with individuals and how individuals react to certain stimuli. And this stimuli, an abundance of money, affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Bernie Sanders, for example, who a lot of people are dogging right now because he's made something like $2 million, or he has $2 million net worth and a couple of houses or something like that. A lot of people are upset with Bernie Sanders because of that, and they're thinking that he's not going to be able to relate to regular people. But everything in his record since the inception of time itself has shown that Bernie Sanders has always been on the side of working people, and no matter how much money he has, he's always worked towards making sure those people got the best of what they could possibly get out of this broken system. Bernie Sanders is a great example of how leftists actually can work hard to make sure that other leftists, and in fact everybody, are seeing a better, higher standard of living, and they're doing it while also working within a system where they need money to survive and being clever enough to accumulate enough of that money so they don't have to suffer themselves. Obviously, a lot of people aren't in the position where they're able to do such things, but the people that are and who can, if they're able to do that, it isn't necessarily a bad thing. The fact that somebody has a lot of money doesn't immediately make them a bad person. There's a lot of celebrities out there that make a fucking pile of money, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people for making that money. They just worked in an industry where they were able to gain a lot of money, and some of them are still really great people. Obviously, you're going to have a couple of assholes who fall into that centrist, fucking neoliberal establishment way of thinking, right? There is going to be that certain demographic that wants to vote for Hillary. There is, of course, a certain percentage of them that are going to go that way, but not all of them are going to do that. You don't immediately lose touch with everybody in your world the second you leave that world. You might gain a little bit better of an understanding of how something else functions. And if you're empathetic and you care about humanity at all, there's a good chance that a lot of that goodness and kindness and empathy is going to carry over, and maybe you can use that position to help people. And Bernie Sanders certainly has done that. And so has Oliver and Contrapoints and H-Bomber guy. Now, that isn't to say that I don't have fundamental disagreements with any number of those people. I certainly do, but I'm not going to go and start attacking them because of this specific reason. This specific reason isn't a good reason to attack anybody because the real fact remains we on the left are extremely underfunded, which I'll talk about in just a second. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about Patreon and ad revenue money through Google. Now, I don't make a whole lot of money off of any of that. I think I make something like $300 on Patreon and like between $60 and $85 monthly on ad revenue money from YouTube. I make virtually no fucking money at all off of YouTube. It's certainly nice to have that little bit of income, and I do work a fucking pile on this channel. Up until this point, I was working on the re-education series, 100 videos in, a lot of them being full-length scripted videos with acting and editing and so forth. And then, of course, I have this series that I've been doing recently for the last couple of months, which is a near daily series. And, you know, we put in a lot of labor when it comes to this sort of thing. The fact that we make any ad revenue money at all off of it is surprising in the first place, considering the content that we most of us make. It's not exactly advertiser friendly. But on top of that, the amount that we actually do make really is inconsequential when it comes to anything else in the world. Like I said, it's between $60 and $85 that I make monthly. Other creators like Contrapoints or whoever probably make a fuck of a lot more, but that's still a fuck of a lot less than basically any number of reactionary right-wing YouTubers that are out there right now. Somebody that I was watching earlier today, a good comrade of mine named Chud Logic, definitely check out Chud Logic's channel. That was a tough sentence to say. In the description box below, I'll leave a link to their Twitch and to their YouTube page. They made the point that right now, we are so incredibly underfunded on the left that it is asinine to think that it's a good idea for attacking other people in our community for actually making a decent living off of what they're doing. In fact, if you look at almost every single right-wing channel, all across the board, it doesn't matter who it is, Tim Pool, Levin, Shapiro, Dave Rubin, Crowder, all of them are, what, 300,000, 400,000, a million more subscribers. They get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views every single time they put out a video. Some of them put out several videos a day. And we're upset about a couple of YouTubers that are making, I don't know, relatively good amounts of money. Something like, now these are numbers that I'm not 100% sure on, but what I've heard was some of them making 10 grand a month. That's a fucking lot of money. I'm envious of that, but that's nothing compared to Rachel Maddow, who makes $30,000 an episode of whatever the fuck propaganda bullshit she's pulling off on MSNBC. We are extremely underfunded on the left. And any one of those channels makes more than every single one of our channels put together. But that's not a bad thing at this point because we're building something, we're working towards something, and we're very much in our infancy right now. But a good idea isn't to immediately cut the fucking head off as soon as we're able to get to a position where we are somewhat able to compete with one another. Now, obviously, there is the problem with multinational corporations using ad money to exploit individuals all across the entire world so they can sell their products, possibly even to your own audience, and that is a problem. And that's why I advocate very strongly that either you get ad blockers on your YouTube or you allow the ads to play through on the YouTubers that you really like and you don't watch the ad so the YouTuber that you really like, English Aaron, makes the money from that ad without you ever even having to look at the damn thing. It's kind of like taken from the rich and given to, well, you know, So that's a much better idea. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get rid of exploitation in every single form, no matter what you do, because it doesn't matter what you do. Even if you own your own business and you're not exploiting anybody, you're still going to be using resources that at some point in history has been through some sort of exploitation. I'm recording right now on a cell phone camera that has conflict minerals and shit from China and all across the world. Like, honestly, there's no real way in our fucked up world right now to have a completely perfect non-exploitation, a completely exploitation-free business. But we want to try as hard as we can to not have exploitation in the things that we do. And of course, I'm envious of people like the individuals that I mentioned before, making so much money off of what they do. Of course I am. Everybody is, because we live in a society where we have to have money to buy food to survive. If we don't have the money to buy food to survive or to buy shelter to survive, then we don't survive and we die. So of course, when that monetary value is tied with your not only self-worth, but with your ability to live in general, then yeah, of course you're going to feel a little bit envious. But it doesn't mean that these people are bad people for doing what they're doing, and it doesn't mean that they're bad comrades for making a lot of money. It just means that the YouTube algorithm has noticed these specific individuals and elevated their platforms and allowed them to talk to more people. If you watch this channel for any more than a couple of minutes, you already know that my opinion on YouTube is that YouTube, specifically views or followers or subscribers or bell dingers or whatever the fuck it is, those things don't equate to somebody being a good person. Those shouldn't equate to somebody's self-worth. Those aren't metrics that you're able to judge somebody's ability by. It's only something that you're able to judge somebody's ability to gain more YouTube subscribers by. People with the most clout usually have the loudest voices or the hottest takes or say the most ridiculous of things or have the most bombastic expressions. But that doesn't mean that they're good at what they're doing. That doesn't mean that they're educating people properly. That doesn't mean that they know even 0.1% of the amount that they need to know to talk about the thing that they're even talking about. But they make it to that top spot because YouTube promotes them to that top spot. But a good part about this is that at least, the majority of the money that these people are making off of ad revenue is still going to be a tiny, tiny percentage in comparison to what a lot of them make off of Patreon. And thank fuck for that, because Patreon is at least a platform where you can directly fund the people that you love, that you think are doing a great job and are actually trying to help the world directly. You can just take money out of your wallet and hand it directly to them and they get it. Of course, Patreon gets a small percentage. You can't get rid of that capitalist bullshit, but at least you're able to fund them directly and not indirectly through this ad revenue bullshit medium. So that's a good thing. And if people are able to appeal to a lot of individuals that think the same way they do and feel the same way they do, and they all feel together like they're going to do something to save the world, then why not donate to those people and actually put these people into a position where they have a fighting chance? Now, that isn't to say that I think everybody should be allowed to make millions and billions of dollars. Obviously, I don't think that. I think that we should be working to dismantle this system as much as we possibly can. But in the meantime, we have to work with the certain parameters that we are stuck with, or else we're never going to get anywhere. Immediately kneecapping ourselves by saying, no, we won't use money because money is the source of all evil. Obviously, we can't do that because we live in we live in a society where we need fucking money. We need money to survive. Obviously, I encourage people as much as possible to get out there and do things for free. Do things for mutual aid. Help out your family. Help out your friends. Help out your community. Do whatever you possibly can to make life a little bit more bearable for everybody in your world. If you're a charitable motherfucker and you want to donate all of your money to, I don't know, food banks and shit, then do that, because I think that you would be a wonderful person for doing that, as long as you're able to continue to be in that fight and to continue to spread not just the wealth around, but the knowledge and the information and everything else that you have, your talents around, so we can help change minds. We're not going to change minds by doing this. It just reminds me of whenever a capitalist gets into an argument with a socialist and says, well, maybe you should just get rid of your cell phone then, because it's a capitalist invention. No, that doesn't make any sense at all. We need to be able to work with the tools that we have in the society that we are living, because that society needs us to work with those tools. That's just how things work. And the primary thing that I think that we need to be taking away from this is that we shouldn't be attacking individuals because of the amount of money they make. We should be encouraging those people to do whatever they fucking possibly can with that money to help individuals, of course. But that doesn't mean that we should be chastising them for making the money in general. We should be working together as some sort of unified force towards a common goal. Because even if we can't agree with each other on every single specific issue, I'm sure we can all agree that we have to destroy the capitalistic system that created these problems in the first place and the state hierarchical structure that holds it there. At least that's the way I look at it. If you do get a chance, please check out my Patreon, because every dollar really does help fund this show. And thanks for watching.